So we're going to start discussing the methods of data analysis, and we have different steps, and we will go one by one. But the first one that we will discuss is the reliability test that applies only for surveys. We don't have reliability test when we use a database, like in archival data. It only works for survey. So let me start with, so in a survey, we usually do not ask only one question or only one concept. So for example, we don't ask from 1 to 10 how happy you are, and then we rely our whole concept of happiness only in one question. That's not very reliable. We cannot rely on only one question to capture this concept of happiness. So that's the first thing. We usually ask more than one question. That's the first thing you need to know. And second, when we try to collect data regarding a concept that is very important for our hypothesis, we usually also do not ask a yes or no question. So we usually use this scale, Likert scale, that is very famous, where you have to kind of rank from 1 to 10 or 1 to 7, depending on how strong you agree with that or how you answer to that question. So two things to remember. We usually do not use one question, and we usually ask like not yes or no, but more like a scale. The third thing that you need to know is that when we construct a questionnaire or a survey, we do not make new questions. We need to read previous studies and then borrow the questionnaire, borrow the questions from previous studies. And I will explain why as I continue with the video. But remember these three things. Never ask yes or no. Don't rely on only one. And also use previous questions that have been used in other studies. So I will give, this is kind of a bad example. If you ask only, are you happy? Because you want to know if someone is happy. That's not the best way to ask it in a survey. Are you happy? That's not the best. You usually ask something like this, like from the next statements from 1 to 10, tell me how much you agree. 1 is fully disagree, 10 is totally agree, something like that. And then you have this 3. So instead of 1, you have 3. I am a happy person compared to others. I consider myself happy. Other people consider me to be happy. So you have more than one question. You have the Likert scale, and these questions hopefully are also based on previous research. So you have the 3 ticks for your questions. But why do we do this? Why do we do it like that? Well, it's because of reliability. We need to have an instrument, we need to have a questionnaire that is reliable. So if we use 3 questions, we need to test that these 3 questions or many questions that we are using are not asking the same thing just several times. So we need to be sure that it's not the same thing. And also that the question can still be related. So that is not like totally a mess, like the questions make sense. So what we it's actually the other way around. I need to fix it in the presentation. But what we don't expect, what we don't like, is to have responses like this, where respondent 1 answers exactly the same, 10, 10, 10. That's bad reliability, because it seems that the question is asking the same thing, so the person answers exactly the same. So that's kind of a bad questionnaire. We don't want this. As I said, there is a typo in here. Then in here is also the opposite. So in this is exactly the same questions, and that's bad. And here is the opposite. They are answering so random that doesn't make sense. So it's like they answer very high and then very low and then medium and then very low. It's just a big mess. That means that the questions are wrong. What we want, I need to change this, is something like this, where the responses are more coherent, like the respondent 1, more or less quite high, respondent 2, more or less medium, and respondent 3, more or less low. So we want to have that kind of stability when they answer. And to do this test, SPSS can help us with that. I will, in this lecture, I will not teach you how to do it in SPSS. We have the quantitative lab for that. But I will talk about more the interpretation. So later you can combine SPSS with this lecture and you will be able to fully understand quantitative analysis. So we need to test for reliability of our questions. And we can do it very simply in SPSS. And the way to do it is that I will explain how it is done in there, but you get this output in SPSS, and you need to check that this factor, the Cronbach alpha, is in between 0.6 and 0.9. If it is less than 0.6, it means that our questions are like this, like very chaotic. If it is higher than 0.9, it means that our questions are exactly the same, something like this. So there are problems if it is below or higher than 0.9. In this example, it's fine because it's 0.744. That's very good. So we can say that this set of questions is reliable. But what happens if you have like 0.6, 0.4, or 0.5, something very low, or 0.95, something very high? Well, to fix that, what you need to do is to maybe remove a few questions from your test. I will explain how to do it in SPSS, but the idea is that if the questions are problematic, you remove questions and then you test until it's not that problematic. So you don't have to totally get it right now because you will practice on the lab, but just make sure that you understand this concept of reliability, that is for service, that you understand why we need to test for that, and that you understand how to fix it in case that something comes up. So if you understand that, I think that's fine. Later with practice, it will be clearer how to do it, how to calculate, how to evaluate and all of this. But until now, I think we can move on to the next point.